Welcome to Authors Revealed. I'm Becky Anderson. I'm so excited. One of my favorite authors with her new book. It's Lauren Beukes with her new book. It's Broken Monsters. You got to read this. It'll scare you. Hey, Lauren, welcome to Naperville and to Anderson's Bookshop.
Thank you so much. It's a gorgeous bookstore.
Well, thanks for coming. I want to tell you, I absolutely adore your books. And so does my 19-year-old daughter. She hasn't read Broken Monsters, but she loved The Shining Girls. So.
You're a terrible parent. How can you
let her read that? I know, I'm a horrible parent, but she reads everything. And she really loved this stuff. And she loved your writing. She thought it was just absolutely spectacular. So, the book's only been out literally this week?
Yes, 2 days.
States, right?
Yeah.
So how long has it been out in South Africa or other parts of the world?
It came out in South Africa in July and in the UK at the end of July. Okay. So it's been kind of a long rolling build-up.
I bet it has. So you probably heard a lot from your readers there, but what have you heard here, though? And I wonder what is the difference between your readers in South Africa, or is it all the same? Everybody just loves it.
Generally, people have loved it. Some South Africans are cross with me for not writing about South Africa. But, you know, I write with a South African sensibility, and I think that counts.
Yeah.
I've heard from some local Detroiters, and so far they've been very positive. They really like the book, and the fact that it's not just about the ruin porn, that, you know, of course there are elements of that in the book, but I do tackle kind of the easy cliches of Detroit. Yeah.
So you've done with this book two books now set in the States.
Yep.
And now, and your first two books, of course, were more from home. And, and then you've also worked on some graphic novels. So you've done some of the ones with Bill Willingham, which is so cool, so cool. So the first sentence, and sort of in Shining Girls, you know, you start it and you're hooked, you know, and you're loving it so much, but you're hating it at the same time. So it's like, oh. You know what I mean? It's like, oh, I just got to read it.
Sounds like my relationship with ice cream.
I love it. I don't need it. I love, you know, you can't, but you need it, right? But that first sentence, it just grabs you, you know, the body, the body, the body, the body, you know.
Yeah.
And it really, and we don't want to give too many spoilers away, because your books, you could really give it away, because there's just so many things that happen in the plot and everything. But that first sentence, I mean, and where did the seed for this one begin?
Yeah. It started with the body, with this strange, you know, kind of half human, half deer, very kind of mythological creature found underneath a tunnel in this industrial wasteland. And the poor detective, Gabriela Visado, who has to deal with it, is just thinking, oh my gosh, you know, what have I landed? What the hell is this?
Yeah, right.
So
and
that's,
and I loved her character. And just like in Shining Girls, the main protagonist, they're such incredible women.
Yeah.
I mean, they see a lot, they experience, especially to Kirby in Shining Girls, but those strong women. So I just want, how did you make up these characters? And the parts of them, are there people that you know? Are they you? Because they're such strong women characters in both of these.
Well, I think they're troublesome women characters.
Well, but that's even the way that makes them stronger, though.
Exactly, absolutely. You know? Because they're not white knights. They're not pure and good. They have hassles. They yell at their kids. They got divorced, they say the wrong thing at the wrong time, and they still have to try and do right at the end of it. Yeah. And I think that makes them much more interesting. So, you know, every character is an aspect of yourself as a writer that you take a seed and you grow it into a tree, including the bad guys. You know, I mean, Harper in The Shining Girls is the most cynical, awful, loathsome human being. Yeah. So I took the grain of my cynicism, maybe slightly more than a grain, but I just grew that into like the most loathsome iterant that you could have of it. Yeah. But I steal blatantly from everywhere I go. I steal bits of dialogue and characteristics or expressions, or you know, and I know a lot of really inspiring, smart, interesting, troublesome women. Yeah.
But I know the journalist in you. You're probably keeping a notebook all the time. You hear something or you see something. You're always writing notes, right?
Yeah, and I often find really weird scribbles in my iPhone, which is my most handy notebook, which I then have to try and figure out what the hell that meant later. Yeah, yeah. But it's good. It's you know,
So Chicago for The Shining Girls, and I know you spent some time here in Chicago and New York.
Yes.
But this one's set in Detroit. So the research. What did you do to go? Because we know what's happening in Detroit, and it's a sad situation, and it's a broken city, you know, just like there's a lot of broken things in this book. But what did you think of Detroit and what you found out there?
Well, I was attracted to Detroit because of those very evocative photographs of the abandoned places, which everyone loves to share on the internet. and the mythology around Detroit, that it is this broken city, that it is the death of America, it is the ruin of our civilization. And I know that it's much more than that, because I come from Johannesburg, and Johannesburg is often held up the same way as the end of everything. So I wanted to get beneath the kind of easy skin of the cliche. So I visited twice, once before I started writing the book, and I just kind of hung out with interesting people. And then after I'd finished the first draft, I went back to like fill in the gaps. But I spoke to Detroit homicide detectives, bought them donuts.
Nice.
I hung out with theater kids who made me do their warm-up exercises with them. I kind of just shanghaied artists and photographers and made them drive me around and show me their version of Detroit. And I worked in a soup kitchen for a day. And
wow.
You know, after I'd finished helping serve food, I went and sat at the different tables, and I spoke to people, and I asked them about their stories. And I was very clear about why I was there. You know, that I was writing a novel, but they were very eager to tell their stories, and everyone wanted someone to come in and do a real story on Detroit, because so often it is those easy cliches. It's parachute journalism. So people were very excited to like have someone show a real interest in getting deeper.
So I think you really enjoy that part of doing that sort of thing.
It's hard. If I could just do that and not the writing, that would be great.
Yeah. So that's that 10 or more years of being a journalist that comes back, and you probably miss that part of it.
Yes, I do. And it's just great. And you know, like real life is more inventive than anything you can make up.
Oh, sure.
And some of the phrases people said, the taxidermist describing taxidermy like skinning a really gross orange. That's verbatim. I couldn't have come up with that. That was fantastic.
Yeah. So, you know, one of the scenes in the book, and this is earlier on in the book, there's a family being evicted from their home because of so many foreclosures have taken place in Detroit and everything. But the realism you put in this, but then there's so much that is so unreal.
Yes.
But I think, you know, that you describe this as the sort of the dream thing, and sort of what happens that's unreal, what happens on the internet, and without spoilers again,
absolutely, definitely.
we don't. But you know, we're talking about Gabriella's daughter.
Yeah.
You know, she's a teenager, and you know that part of the book and the other teenager. And I don't want to give anything away again.
Well, the daughter is getting into trouble.
Yeah, she's getting in trouble
with her best friend online. They're getting into catfishing. Right. They're trying to expose a pedophile. And it takes them to some very dark places. But I was interested in, you know, just the whole idea of dreams, like the American dream, that Detroit is a symbol of the American dream, and now the death of the American dream.
Right.
And the human subconscious and art. But also the internet. The internet is a very interesting place where the subconscious can vent, and where we hide behind masks and we obfuscate ourselves.
There's a great review by Stephen King, which when Stephen King...
Mind-blowing.
I know, which is fantastic. So when something scares Stephen King, you know, and you know, what scares you though? Because there are some in both of your books.
Yeah.
There's two real scary. Even though in the first book there's a lot of time travel element in that, which adds that sort of little bit of fantasy element, which happens with time travel and that sort of thing. But what scares you? And when you're writing this, you know, knowing that, do you sit down and outline, you know what the story is going to be?
Yeah.
Or do you write it and what's scaring you is scaring us when we read it?
It's a bit of both.
Yeah.
But I know that it's made up. At the end of the day, you know, I close my laptop and I don't go to bed with those things in my head.
Yeah.
It'll be waiting for me the next day.
Yeah.
But you know, real crime scares me. Domestic violence, and you know, the fact that the justice system doesn't work pretty much anywhere. It's a fairy tale.
Yeah.
And I think that's what scares me. And social injustice, and the fact that people care so much about who other people are sleeping with. I find it so frustrating and strange.
It's flipped.
Yeah, no, completely. And that people would kill someone over love. I don't get it.
Yeah, right. So your first two books were more science fiction.
Yes.
You know? And so now, you know, people are calling this sort of a time travel horror with Shining Girls. You know, their first book set here in the States in Chicago. And now this one, what are we going to call this one? You know, it's interesting.
The word
so what is a new genre?
The word I've heard, which I think is so appropriate for the book, considering the bodies that are found, is hybrid. And I'm like, that's perfect.
Like hybrid horror, whatever you want to call it.
And it's interesting because The Shining Girls has just won a major literary prize, a major mystery award, and a major horror prize. Yeah. So it's really nice to see that it can play you can play across genre.
And you have won some major reviews, some great reviews, starred reviews, because your writing is just so, you are drawn in to these stories, and it's I just think the writing is absolutely brilliant. So with being a South African author, and do you ever get questioned by friends at home, like, why are you writing about the United States? You know, bring it back home. You know?
Some people do feel that way, not my friends, but there are some critics and some academics who want me to write about South Africa, but nobody tells David Mitchell about where he's allowed to write about.
So true.
And, you know, my books are still deeply political, and they still deal with political issues, just on a broader canvas. You know, I'm still writing about segregation, I'm still writing about crime and poverty and classism, and the history that affects us, that haunts us every day. And it's just in a different city. You know, it is, Detroit and Chicago are really analogs for Johannesburg, you know?
Sure, sure. And I think with storytelling like this and the subject matter, I think some of those subject matters and the issues will stay with you more, and I think give you a clearer picture in some way.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah.
So you did some TV screenwriting.
Yeah.
And what I've always noticed about both of these books, how visual you are. And did that come from some of that, or was it some of your journalism background? But you really do, because when I saw the book trailer, I hadn't seen it until I looked up a little things about you today. I looked at the trailer for Shining Girls. That is so exactly how I pictured that house and that room.
It's amazing.
I just thought that was incredible.
It was incredible. I had nothing to do with that. That was the publisher, which was amazing. But they did a beautiful job.
Because it's your description.
Yeah.
And the way you create that visual picture.
Well, it's you know, it's because I worked in animation and comics, and you know, you have to write very visually, and you better be clear, because otherwise they're going to have to redraw it, and they're not going to be pleased.
Right. So I heard that Leonardo DiCaprio, his production company, has optioned it for a movie or television.
It's the current status is movie. They have a director attached who's a very cool director, but it's all non-disclosure, so I'm not allowed to say anything.
Oh, okay.
But it's exciting, and it's moving forward slowly as these things do.
Okay. Well, I hope it happens, and I hope they do it right. I hope they do it right.
And we've already had quite a lot of interest in Broken Monsters as well, so that's great. We're fielding offers.
Okay.
That's so Hollywood to say that.
I know.
It's ridiculous.
That's so fantastic. So tell us what you're working on now.
I'm working on a new comic. It's a horror comic with DC Vertigo. And I'm really looking forward to stopping touring. This is my last tour for the year. Okay. I've been touring for 18 months, and then I'm going to figure out what my new novel is about. I have some ideas. Some of them might come back to South Africa, but yeah, I'm tired of killing people. I don't think I'll do another serial killer book readily. Yeah, I'll probably kill some people, but not you know, not a whole lot. Well, probably not from the killer's perspective.
Okay. Well, you're due a rest. 18 months is a long time to be touring.
It is.
For a book tour. Okay. So
I'm killing people.
Yeah. So I do a little quiz at the end of these, so you know all the answers. Lightning round. So whatever comes to your mind first. Okay. What was your favorite book when you were really young?
Roald Dahl's The Witches.
A lot of this makes sense. No. What was your favorite book when you were in your teens?
Alan Moore's The Ballad of Halo Jones. It was a comic.
Okay. Okay. How about something when you were working on your MA at University of Cape Town?
Margaret Atwood's Oryx and Crake nearly destroyed my career because I loved it so much, and it was so similar to Moxieland, which was my first book. I nearly put Moxieland down and walked away. But I loved it. I still love the book, but she nearly destroyed my career.
All right. How about a book you've been an evangelist for? Any book you've read your entire life that you could not tell enough people to read?
Lexicon by Max Barry is just wonderful. It's one of my favorite books that I read last year. And Claire DeWitt and the City of the Dead by Sarah Gran. And Ed Brubaker's Criminal, and I could just go on.
Go on. Okay.
No, there's so many amazing books that I've been reading lately.
Okay. What would be your favorite piece of science fiction?
Pattern Recognition by William Gibson.
Okay. Okay, and what about a guilty pleasure read? What would you call a guilty pleasure read?
I don't have guilty pleasure reads.
Good. I like that answer.
I'm promiscuous in my reading. I take anything I want to bed with me, but it better be good, and it better be surprising, and it better deliver.
Okay, because then you feel guilty for reading something bad.
I will put something bad down.
Okay, if you could have dinner with any 3 authors, alive or dead, who would those 3 be?
Christopher Marlowe, Stephen King, and Margaret Atwood.
Ooh, that's the best answer I've ever had on this one. I like that. I want to be there. Okay, can I serve you guys dinner?
Oh, yeah,
okay, cool.
You'll have to. Yeah.
All right. And what are you reading now?
I am reading the new David Mitchell. I'm reading The Bone Clocks. It's amazing.
I started it and I had to put it down, but I want to get back to it.
It's really great. I've been dying to read it, and I would normally read it in paper, but I'm traveling, and I've been traveling for a month, and I've been dying to read it, and I keep seeing people tweet about it, and they're talking about the plot, and I'm like, okay, I'm just going to have to buy it and read it. So I'm reading it on my Kindle.
All right.
But I'm going to buy the paper edition as soon as I get home.
Okay. Great score, 100%.
Awesome, yay.
Okay. Well, Lauren, thanks so much for talking with me.
Brilliant.
absolutely love your book. So
thank you.
Come back and
I will,
visit us
definitely.
next time.
Fantastic.
Right? Thanks.
Thanks, Anderson.
Great conversation with South African author Lauren Beukes about her new novel. It's called Broken Monsters. Thanks for joining me on Authors Revealed.